I'd like to show you a little bit about resilience. So here is the plants from my house. I brought them over here to start nurserying them out in the woods. And these edges are actually ferns. So these were the ferns that were dug up with a little bit of sod. And they were essentially scratched the ground up, thrown them on the ground here. And you can see they're starting to come back. You can see the ferns right there. I don't want any plant to go to waste. You can see the ferns right there. Then over on the other side here, you can see some more ferns picking up. I'm Justin Hitt with Prosperity Homestead. When you clear out one area and you find unique and valuable plants, you want to nursery them up. So what we have here is a space in the woods that is kind of our raw material space and then nursery impound to just gather all the plant starts and all the plants that are going to have value on the homestead to start new plants and to start building out the unique nature of our new location. So we've got just the underbrush in the woods, and I basically picked a little clearing and cut down some of the small little plants and then just started putting my pots out here. Now you can see it's a variety of things. There's onions and herbs and unfortunately some grasses. Many of these pots will have to be repotted or planted out. Butterfly bush, some aquatic plants. That's why there's some stuff in the basin there. These ferns, and of course our compost pile. Now I compost all of my cardboard and organic waste. So that's a permanent pile. That pile will fill to the top, and then I'll wait a year before I use the materials, and of course there's room for more. Now there's also already some junk in the woods here. So I'm piling up all the junk I find in the woods so that I can later haul it out. And of course our brush piles. Much of these brush piles will be cut up and the leaves that fall off will be composted, but the chunks of wood that get cut up will be tinder or be turned into charcoal. Got a basin here, and I got this, again, this compost pile here. Now this compost pile here is literally just dumped off the trailer, and I'll turn it a couple times while picking the bulbs out of it. You can see the bunch of small bulbs starting to sprout. There's some comfrey under there that's sprouting. And of course we got some IBC tanks for water. You need a place on your property, I've talked about this before, that is going to be the rough area, the raw materials area, where you bring in bulk loads like mulch and wood chips and stuff. Now this is in a less desirable space. I can hear the highway from here, where on other places of the property I can't hear the highway. So later if I put up a shade house or more plant starts, people aren't going to be in and out of here all the time because it's a less desirable space. There's also piles of dirt already back here. This is a cover to keep deer off of plants. There's already piles of dirt back here and stuff. So we're really choosing a space that was less valuable. It's kind of away from the central locations or access points. And again, it's where I can pull in, unload materials. We have a bunch of blocks and building materials, hoses, fences, a barrel for baking charcoal, drain pipes. It all has a place on the property. Now you want to avoid junking up the thing, and I'm really speaking to myself more than anybody else. It's very easy to just make piles of stuff everywhere, but unless I turn this pile to turn it a couple times to get it to the compost, unless I take out these branches over here and turn them into charcoal, I haven't progressed the materials from a raw state to a state of higher value. So even planting up plant starts is taking a plant that would have otherwise been destroyed when landscape changed or an area was cleared out and turning it into a more valuable resource by either propagation or planting it where it's going to succeed better. This nursery space, this storage space, is away from the rest of the camping areas or the rest of the living areas because we don't want it to be a shelter habitat for pests, raccoons, possums, rats, different things like that. So this brush pile here does provide some habitat for rabbits and such, but it's doing so away from the house, and it's meant to process, not necessarily just sit here forever. And you might be saying, well, Justin, why are you collecting tree trimmings and branches and stuff when you've got a lot of deadfall in the woods? So you can see that deadfall. That deadfall could be turned into charcoal just as easy as the next thing. but that deadfall's actually up in the air and dried out, and is more of a uniform shape. So I'd rather cut that into firewood than these straggly branches and stuff that really just need to be chunked up and fed to a barrel to make charcoal. You might also be asking, well, look, when you find trash on your property, why are you moving it around rather than hauling it off the property? Well, I'd rather go to the dump with a full truck than a partial truck, because a full truck, I think is $12 is for your first certain amount of weight, and I could fill this truck up to the top and not go beyond that $12 price. So if I'm going to drive down to the dump, I'd rather make a pile of things. Like this is some kind of old carpet. You know, I'd rather make a pile of things and then take it in one load than to take a trailer down there and, you know, every couple of weeks. So I hope I've answered a lot of questions about that utility space. You usually don't see this utility space on other people's properties. It might be behind a barn. It might be away from the main house. I know at the Biltmore Estate, Renolda and the Biltmore Estate, over near the greenhouses behind the ornamental gardens, is their composting area, their raw materials area. And it's pretty much off limits unless you've, you know, introduced yourself and got an invitation to see it. Anytime you're going to have animals, you might have multiple feed tanks. You could leave them out in the field somewhere if you're going to use them, but I'd rather bring them back to a central location so that I can know what I've got, for one thing, and number two, it leaves the outer spaces easy to clean up. Okay, because you don't want to put this out in an area that's going to get overgrown with grass and hard to manage. I'm Justin Hitt from Prosperity Homestead. I'm here to help you transform your property into abundance, to be able to turn raw land, be able to turn your homestead idea into a homestead reality. I specialize in helping small farms and homesteads with planning and income streams so that you can really live the dream that you want. And I'm going to talk a lot about the logistical side that most people don't get to see, so that you can understand how to run the operations part of your small farm or homestead for maximum productivity and maximum enjoyment. I'll see you in the next podcast. Be sure to like and subscribe.